Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to 2024. Woo! Yay! It's a whole new, brand new start, and here we go. And when I know that for me, I don't really make a resolution, but I had goals for this year, and my goals are to make those connections with people maybe I've lost over the years and strengthen some relationships that I have. And what better thing to think about right now then is, can ChatGPT be one of your besties, right? Moving into this next year. So here we go. That's what we're going to talk about today. And really, if we want ChatGPT to be our bestie, we have to think about how it might be able to help us with planning, how it could help us with curricular materials. And we'll have to think about those prompts that we put into it. But I do want to welcome you back in a fun way. So we're going to start off with some riddles. Are you ready? Yay, this is so exciting. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and be ready to either type your thought into the chat or unmute, and you can answer as quickly as you want to. You can shout out in this class. It's fine. Okay. All right. Here is our first riddle. A cowboy rides into town on Friday, stays for 3 days, and leaves on Friday. How did he do it?
His horse's name is Friday.
Yay! Who shouted that out?
Tammy Watkins.
You are right, Tammy. You are right. And look, we have a couple of people who put it in the chat. Nice work. Nice work. You got it. Here it is. The horse's name is Friday. And isn't that an adorable horse right there for us? So. All right. Well, I have another one. What turns everything around but does not move? Oh, I see the earth. I don't know. I feel the earth move under my feet, right? That's the only thing I could think of when you said that. I see a signpost. Ah, Frank's got it.
A mirror.
It's a mirror. That's right. Dallas got it. That's right. It's a mirror. That mirror is what doesn't move at all, but it can turn everything around so that it's reflected. All right, I have just one more. Just one more. Are you ready? Okay, here it comes. What washes up on very small beaches? Shells. I love to collect shells. I think they're, or at least look at them. See the different kinds on the beach. Any other ideas? That's not the answer. People. Oh my goodness, Jesse. I don't know if that's dark or if that's happy. I'm not sure. Oh, tiny messages and bottles. Oh, that's super sweet. That's creative too. All right, I'm going to show you. Are you ready? Here it comes. Microwaves. Ah, Dallas said ChatGPT said microwave. See, ChatGPT can be your bestie for helping to solve riddles too. I do want to let you know this image, I created it in Canva by using their image creation AI. So I said, I'd like a microwave on a beach. Now I'm not talking about that one today, but I needed to just share that with you. So I thought it was a cute picture. So if you need a particular image, Canva might be your resource. Microsoft also has image creation right now too, that you just have to sign in with your Microsoft account and you can use that. All right, I do need to make a quick poll though, because I don't want to go into this conversation assuming that you know nothing or assuming that you know everything. So I do kind of want an idea from you here. How familiar are you with ChatGPT? Are you very familiar? Are you maybe a little bit, you kind of know a little bit about it, maybe use it once or twice, or you don't really know anything about it? Okay, I see a little, very little. Pretty familiar, nope. Understand what it does, but I haven't used it. All right. I'm seeing quite a few littles. Excellent, excellent. Okay, all right. So I saw a couple of pretty familiars. My pretty familiars, if you have things to shout out to add to what we talk about, that would be excellent. And even if you feel like you know a little, you might know something that you'd like to contribute to this conversation. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a moment and show you ChatGPT for a second, just in case you haven't ever been there, you can get some kind of idea with it. While I'm transitioning with that though, I did notice that Rick tried to put a question up there himself too, a riddle up there. And he said that it was what did he have in his pockets? And I think that was a quiz. Do you want to tell us, Rick? Or oh, string or nothing is usually what it is, I think is what he's trying to tell us. All right, here we go. Can you see this screen? It has kind of green and some boxes on it. Yeah, okay. So what happens is if I want to get to ChatGPT, there is a link for it. I can also just Google for it and type in ChatGPT and it'll take me to the same place if I choose this top one, ChatGPT OpenAI. When I get there, if you haven't opened an account yet, you need to click this try ChatGPT option. But you see, when I do it, I already have an account, so it doesn't work for me. But what I did is I just used my Delaware Tech account to be able to open this account. So that way, and you can also feel free to use one of your own emails if you'd like. You could have a couple of accounts if you want. But this is what the screen looks like once you sign in. And then when you sign into it, you can ask it all kinds of questions. They have a few ideas, like tell me a fun fact about the Roman Empire if you'd like. But for instance, one of them that I put in, because sometimes I think it's fun to think about a what's in it for me kind of thing, is I typed in, create a calendar in a table form with one high protein meal and one body weight exercise that's recommended for a 50-year-old woman, right? Let's go ahead and just get right to it. So it actually created this table for me and it suggested I could have grilled chicken salad and do squats on Monday. So it's just something that you could do. I could also ask, well, that baked salmon and quinoa looks pretty good. Please provide a recipe. Oh, I can't type. That's why I typed it first. Baked salmon and quinoa. And then it will give me the recipe for it if I saw something that I particularly liked. So this can at least help you. Oh, I like it. Thomas says it can give you some nice workout programs too. If you are interested in a what's in it for me kind of thing. So this gives you some information. We're going to dive back into this in a little bit, but I also did want you to notice when I typed, I wonder what it would do if I said recipe for Thursday, if it would know. Yeah, it did. Greek yogurt parfait with nuts and berries. So it has a memory so that it can remember within that same chat what it was talking to you about. And that can be very useful for when you're refining your prompts. We're going to talk more about that. I just wanted you to actually have an idea of what it is, how quickly it can work, and then we're going to go back into our presentation now. So give me 1 second to get that up for you. And when we're thinking about how can ChatGPT be our bestie, what we're trying to do is think about all those ways that can help us out as an instructor. So we're going to be able to look at this for lesson planning and for course content outlines that kind of go together. We'll look at this about course materials. You can actually make some case studies or some real world examples and some other classroom activities. Another way that you can use artificial intelligence, but not really ChatGPT necessarily in this situation, as an intelligent agent. I did want to mention it, although that's not the focus for this presentation. We have intelligent agents in D2L. You can set it up, you can program it so that it will respond for you in a timely fashion. So if your students take a quiz and they do very well on it, you can have one message that deploys automatically that says, great job. Here's a few more resources that you might like to use to take you further. If it's a student who didn't do as well, you can say, well, it looks like you struggled a little bit. Here's a few more resources that can help you. Contact me for more information so you can really go into what they missed. Or, I see that you haven't taken the quiz yet. Make sure you do that so you can have intelligent agents do those things for you. We have lots and lots of resources from CCIT already about intelligent agents. So contact me if you'd like those. But today we're really focusing in on that ChatGPT. So we're going to talk about using ChatGPT for your lesson plans. So here's an example I wanted to show you. And I do have a document that I am going to put into the chat so that you can see these resources as well. I created these lesson plans and then I put them into some Word documents so that it would preserve them. If you create something in ChatGPT and you go back and try to recreate it, it will not be exactly the same. It might be very similar, but it won't be exactly the same. So if you see something that you want to preserve, it does save that chat on the side. You might have remembered that you might have noticed from the screen, there were some things on the side of my screen. But if you want to preserve it, you need to copy and paste it. You can't recreate it. So here's my lesson plan. If you'll notice, there's some words on this lesson plan. On this prompt, provide a lesson plan for teaching the topic of blank to blank students. So this is important to be able to use something like this, a prompt, an outline. Once you have your prompt idea, it's easier to bring these up. This particular one was about exploring social and environmental justice. I put in there that I wanted it to teach first-year college students for my audience. If you give ChatGPT an audience, it will be better at fulfilling your request. If I just said, give me a lesson plan about social environmental justice, I'm not sure about how appropriate it would be. And I'll tell you the truth, I still want to review it to make sure that it's going to meet the needs of my particular cohort of students, right? But you'll notice on there that there is an objective. They've decided to put an objective. Maybe you want some CCPOs or some MPOs there, right? And then it has materials that you'll need during the lesson. It says 90 minutes. Now, in my suggestion there, I did not put into the prompt how long I wanted this lesson to be. I could put 60 minutes, I could put 2 hours. I could be more descriptive in my prompt. My prompt was very light, but I was still able to get a nice lesson plan that was for 90 minutes, that at least it gave me an outline of what I could do for this lesson. I also looked at one for energy sources and said, okay, this one's for sophomores. When I did that, it gives my objective, it gives me my materials. Do you notice how it says PowerPoint presentation on the screen as well? If I don't have one already, I can then ask ChatGPT to create an outline for a PowerPoint that would be appropriate for this lesson plan. And it will create this outline. And then of course, I'm still the expert in the class. I'll probably have to tweak it, but it gives me a good idea. It gives me a good start, gives me a skeleton for what I'm going to do. If you want to create actual PowerPoints, you can use Gamma. Gamma is a site where you can actually create those PowerPoints, or Canva can help you create those PowerPoints. But if you just want the idea, then ChatGPT is really good at generating that idea for you. And I had a third one. So these are what you'll see in that resource document, that you'll see 3 different ones. This one was about legal studies because I had to give a shout out to my friend Jennifer Morton out there. This one is for first year legal studies. And you'll see that it said 60 minutes. It has whiteboard markers, presentation slides, but then you also see a little bit how it can say introduction, and it estimates about 10 minutes for the introduction. And then it estimates, well, below that, you'll have a content delivery for about 20 minutes. It gives you those time estimates as well. Okay. Now, one of the things that I thought was insufficient in those lesson plans, for instance, was their opening activity. It might have just said, oh, let students kind of think about what do they know or what do they not know, right? Well, I wanted them to have something just a little more active, a little more interactive. So for this one, this was my prompt: provide a brief interactive opening activity for this lesson. Now remember, it has a memory. So I put that underneath the lesson that it had created. And this one was for the energy sources. So then it talked about being able to use index cards or small pieces of paper, markers and pen, and it gave me the idea of how I could create this interactive activity for my students to use at the beginning. So when it gives you this lesson plan, if there are parts of it that you're like, oh, I need more information, then you can ask it for more information about a certain area. The interesting thing I think about this is that it doesn't matter if I'm a brand new teacher to the content, and that's why I'm accessing these lesson plans, or if I've taught this for several semesters and I need a new idea. These can be something that can give you what you need to just function, or it could give you what you need to enhance whatever you've done so far. So from that little bit of information, we're doing some distributed summarizing. If you went to the instructional strategies today, you might recognize that. How are you inspired to use ChatGPT for your lesson planning at this point? Go ahead and just put it into the chat or unmute. Have you found out something new about what ChatGPT could do to help you with your lesson planning? Interactive activities, being able to get some ideas, maybe some new ideas for that. Good point, Tammy. Rick is asking about hallucinations as part of today's presentation. So last semester I did the Lunch and Learn series on AI. Those recordings are coming steadily up into the website. But yes, hallucinations, please hear me, every single one of your AI generators, whether it's ChatGPT or DALL-E or anything else that you, Perplexity is another source, they all hallucinate. That is the technical term for it. So they imagine things. If you want to personify them, make them a little bit more like a person, you might think that they just are people pleasers. So if you ask them a question and the chat bot a question and it doesn't know, it tries to make up the answer for you. This is important for you to know. It's important for your students to know. I told my students in my abnormal psych class, just in case they thought that was a useful resource, that they still needed to check everything that it said because it wouldn't necessarily be correct. And ultimately, if you're the user of ChatGPT, you are still ultimately responsible for if it's correct or not. So that's a good point, Rick. Thanks for asking that. I like it too. I see for case studies, developing ideas on how to organize content that's shared with students. Gonna try this on your own, John, and see how far it goes. Yeah, there are good medical scenarios in there, a safe way for students to think about it. And I like that you pointed out there also being able to create quiz questions. ChatGPT you can give it a sample of writing an article and it will create questions that go with it. Yes, and for time planning. Excellent. And for model intros, we've used it a couple of times. I used it when we were creating an ECE course because we wanted scenarios. We were following a child throughout the modules of the course to help give it more interest for the students. So we used ChatGPT to create different scenarios and then we tweaked them to make them work for the course. Excellent. So let's think about those course materials. Ding, 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 gold star for those scenarios, because that's what we're talking about now is some of those real life scenarios. Here was one idea, the course materials in the sustainability and environmental legalities course. This was talking about the water crisis in Michigan, in Flint, Michigan. You might remember that, it was a few years ago, but I'm from Michigan originally, so this one sticks out to me anyway. But all I did was ask ChatGPT to provide a real life example applicable to this lesson. And it was able to generate this one. The fun part is though, it had recommended in the lesson plan to break students into groups so that then they could explore scenarios. Well, I said, you need to tell me the scenarios then because I don't have them. So that's why I asked for this one. And then I said, provide another real life example. So it was able to produce another one. And this one was about the Standing Rock protests in North Dakota. So you can actually have it create multiple scenario ideas. I would read through them as an instructor just to make sure there isn't misinformation in there, make sure that it didn't hallucinate and make something up that you know is completely wrong. But isn't this much easier than having to come up with it all on your own from scratch, even if you have to edit it a bit? Then all of a sudden I had a brainstorm. I said, well, what about, and I went back to my Flint water crisis and I said, write an imaginary interview between a news reporter and I don't know why I'm focusing on a 50-year-old woman. Can you guess? But a 50-year-old woman named Mary Beth, who her family was involved in this. And I wrote this whole prompt and it actually came up with this. And you can see the two voices there. There's a reporter. Good day, Mary Beth. Thank you for agreeing to this interview. Then Mary Beth is able to respond to them. And it's another way that you could present some information. Perhaps you augment it with a couple of more details, or you ask ChatGPT to add a couple more details. Those are possible options here. But I really thought it was fun that I could make it create this interview. And it's just another way an alternative way for them to work with the content. There are other classroom activities as well. Remember I talked about those opening activities? I said, well, I don't like that you wanted something really general. I want something, an interactive open activity. And it gave me this one with index cards. And it talked about that. I said, but wait, I teach through Zoom. So can you modify this so that now I can use it with my students in Zoom? And it did. And it came up with, I said, take this energy source matchup activity and make it useful in the Zoom platform. So it talked about how I could use some digital index cards, or I could use the whiteboard, and it discussed the breakout rooms, all those things that I probably could think of anyway if I wanted to. But if it can help you think about activities in different modalities in your course. So whether you're face-to-face or whether you're online, or if you need any hybrid examples, that way you have ChatGPT can help you with that. So you don't have to start everything from scratch. And there's a few ways that you can use it with your students to help along these lines of curricular materials. So you can have ChatGPT compose articles about the same topics, and maybe your students critique the writing. Maybe they critique the viewpoint. Maybe they use it to synthesize those two informations together. So it's helping them look at these different things. So I could see it about different topics, different medical topics, for instance, or maybe a different social issue, something like that. And I could see it through an English teacher's lens. I could see it through that content lens, through the specialist lens, that there's a variety of ways. I could also have them create these articles. ChatGPT is terrible, terrible, terrible at references. It either doesn't get them right or it makes them up or whatever. So maybe I'm using it to help look at the information that's there. What references can I find that support that? Or what can I add to it with references that support or enhance the writing? So I can use it to really benefit that critical thinking side and help kids think more deeply about what they're encountering. I can also ask ChatGPT, oh my gosh, I need a research topic and I don't know what to do. This is an ethical way to do it. Ask GPT to help brainstorm some ideas. What are the top 10 hot issues right now in sustainability, right? And then I could choose one of those topics. That's still an ethical way to do it. We could do that with Google, right? But ChatGPT might give us a little better language there. We can use it for brainstorming. I've used it for business plans. I put an or there because I'm curious if it's maybe spurring some ideas for you so that you're thinking about other ways you might be able to use this in your class. I will show you this example too. Another way to practice critical thinking. I asked ChatGPT to tell me if a nurse encountered someone who was in cardiac arrest, what would they do? It gave me a whole bunch of steps. Now, if I'm a student who is in this class and I have these steps that are generated, now I can go through these steps and I can think about, are these valid? Is this reasonable? What equipment might I need to have? I could analyze it for that. I could also put in there some different personalization in there. If I've been in a field placement, have I seen any of these things in action? So that way it takes it beyond the AI and puts that personal experience in there as well. So there's a few ways that you can support critical thinking or other classroom activities in with ChatGPT. So you might be getting a theme here. Here's our distributed summarizing again. How are you inspired to be able to use ChatGPT to develop curricular materials? We saw a couple of people who already thought about scenarios, but do you have anything that's popped into your mind from the other examples that I've given? Like I said, if you don't want to type, you can unmute. It's okay. It really is.
So actually, a student told me of a use of this that she uses. And as instructors, sometimes we don't write questions that are maybe easy for students to understand. She actually takes the questions and puts them into ChatGPT to have them reformatted to help her understand what is really being asked. That was unique.
Excellent, excellent. To understand the question better. I had not heard of that before, Frank. Thank you very much for bringing that one out. Oh, and maybe use it to get updated aviation accident topics. That's a good thought, Maria. There are some limitations with ChatGPT, although it's being updated. For a while, it could only go up to, I think it was 2021, but they were updating it. So there will be more recent, but as far as being able to get it really recent things, if you're noticing that all of your students' things are a few years old, they might be chat GPTing their assignment. Just put that in there if they don't have anything new. Um, but I like that idea. All right. If the organizations really aren't updating it any faster than that anyway, it might be sufficient. So there we go. That's terrific. Thanks, Maria. All right. One more thing that I would like to be able to tell you here, and there's a lot to this one thing, but this is kind of that part in our agenda we were talking about, the prompt. And it really is the power of the prompt. But don't get discouraged by this. The whole point is, though, the more information you give ChatGPT, the better it will be at providing a response for you. The main reason I pointed out that one at the beginning that has work in tables is that's something that I think is really interesting. I can copy that, I can paste it in, I can edit it then as I need to. If I take a picture of it, it's not as editable, but it can help me organize my thinking. I can use that to create a rubric. So if you've ever struggled to be able to create your rubric, ChatGPT can help you with the first draft of that rubric, and then you can tweak it so that it works specifically for your assignment or specifically for your cohort of students. We know that sometimes we have different groups of students who have different abilities when they come to us, so we might have to adjust. I thought it was interesting too because we can do language translations with it, and it can do it in a table version. So here, as we do this. So this was one of the ideas if you are, for instance, teaching Spanish. Here it is in a table that it's 10, very simple because I am not the Spanish expert, but 10 common English nouns with their translations in Spanish. And it created a table for me, which would be easy for me to use or share. Here's a rubric for college writing. I'll tell you, my first prompt, not so good. Create a rubric and a table to evaluate college student writing across a 5-column rubric with categories of content development mechanics. Headings are exceeds, proficient, developing, basic, and insufficient. I thought that was really good prompt. It was not. Look what it made for me. What is that? But then underneath of it, it said, well, your content for exceeds, it described it better. So I re-prompted it. Fill in the body of the table with the descriptions of the categories. The first category is exceeds, because look, it was just putting these categories wherever it wanted to. Inside of this table, they were all just mix and matching. I didn't like that. So I said the first category is exceeds, the second is proficient, yada, yada. And then it created this for me. I'm much happier. And it's a great first draft of that rubric. I can read through it now and make sure that it's measuring what I want it to measure, make sure that it's more specific to my assignment, if that's what I would like. Now I have this idea, it helps save me a little bit of time of that initial generation. So then you can also change the tone of a response, and I'll show you an example of that in a little bit. But you can ask it to write those papers that we talked about. Maybe you have a sample of writing in the style of Martin Luther King Jr. or Ernest Hemingway, Shakespeare. They could compare those three and look at how the tone changed across those writings and talk about how it changed in maybe the comprehension of it. Or you can ask it to write something in a professional tone, in a humorous tone. You can ask for in the style of a person, and it does a pretty good job. Or you can also ask for it in a general tone. Again, keep your audience in mind. Remember how we talked about you can write to, for you might be saying for college freshmen or sophomores. You know, I often use for college instructors because I want it to be respectful to you. But if your students are using it and you're talking to them, maybe they need it to be described to a 10-year-old, something that's a little easier in that particular assignment that they're trying to complete. So it's really thinking about what do they need to do. And this was something that I thought was neat. They can hear both sides. So actually, ChatGPT can work on a polarizing topic. So the one I chose was a debate regarding the pros and cons of using artificial intelligence in the college classroom. One perspective is that of an administrator who does not support using artificial intelligence in the college classroom. The other perspective is an instructor who has many ideas for the ethical implementation of artificial intelligence. So then it went ahead. It said, as an administrator, here are my pros: preservation of human interaction, quality of learning, ethical concerns. Here are my cons. Well, it's probably going to cost me more money because I'm not using some of this. Dependency and job displacement. There could be an over-reliance on AI also. That's a con. Learning autonomy. But here's my instructor. Here's pros and here's cons as well. Now, of course, I'm going to want to read over those and make sure that they're all legitimate and reliable. I still have to have some responsibility for this, but isn't this a great way to be able to start it and to get those ideas to begin? And again, present that content in another way for my students. That's how I can do universal design for learning also, presenting it in different ways. So I did want to show you this also, the value of that prompt, just trying to drive that home. My first prompt was create an outline for a presentation about equity in education. And you can see it gave me this nice little outline. This is part 8 of the outline. I didn't put the whole thing on there, but it talks about the role of stakeholders, government and policymakers, educators and school administrators. But when I asked it to revise the outline for an audience of college students in a preparation course, then it changed it to the role of aspiring educators from stakeholders. It changed it to future educators as change agents. So just being able to see that it does respond to the audience that you put in there. Again, you reread it, make sure that's doing what you want it to do, but it does matter what you tell it to do. Here's another example. This one's huge. And really, I'm only using this example to show you how large your prompts truly can be. This whole huge paragraph is one prompt. And it's a very detailed prompt. This one is teaching ChatGPT to take a role in a role play of a student, and the person who's using ChatGPT is the teacher. So you could give this prompt to your students, they pop it in, and now ChatGPT helps them explore a topic. What's really cool is this prompt tells them to be able to do it to describe their understanding of a topic, ChatGPT's understanding of a topic, in the form of a TV show, writing a poem, or a short story. So you'll see in ChatGPT's response, it says, I can demonstrate my understanding of the concept by writing a scene from a TV show, crafting a poem. You can see it tells it right there. This is very different though. This is a very structured approach. I just put this in here to show you that you can. It can be that detailed. Now, if you want it to be more detailed than that, you have to go to the paid version. The free version can take up to, I can't remember, like thousands of characters, but the paid version takes you even further than that. I have found the free version is sufficient for everything I've wanted to do with it, but you might fall in love with ChatGPT and want to get the paid version. But again, I have found it to be sufficient. This is one, remember I talked to you about the tone or the style? This is teach the concept of gravity in the style of Martin Luther King Jr. So it says, I stand before you today to talk about a force that shapes our world. So now it's giving you the speech, the information in that style. It's just another way, if you lean towards this creativity side, that it's just another way to be able to get that information. I wanted to show you the power of being able to do that. Here, though, is the lesson plan that I said. One on the left is teaching about the topic of gravity to college freshmen. But on the right, I said through the style of an instructor who teaches through storytelling. So you'll see that just even the little differences. One says lesson outline, number 1 is introduction. This says lesson story. The first part is act 1. So even just little things like that take it through that. And maybe you use this because you've taught a lesson for years and now you want a way to just make it fresh, make it different. This is one way you could do that. So To bring this to a distributed summarizing, do you see ways that you are excited about the prompt, for instance, that you could use? Can you put some elements that you'd have in your prompt in that chat or unmute to tell us what would work for you? What would help you?
I'm excited about the ways that it can take different tones so I can make it more interesting, like and fun to read or learn about. And also the like, break this down for me type thing. Like, teach it to me like I'm 10 because I'm lost. So let's start at the beginning.
Excellent. Yeah. ChatGPT is supposed to be a really good resource for helping understand difficult topics because you can say, break this down for me, explain it to me in a different way. Useful for your students can be useful for you as well, depending upon what the topic is. So I want to be able to thank you for coming today for this. I will be around for more questions if you have them. And then this is my email if you want to reach out or reach out to me through Teams. If you have a question that you're formulating, trying to figure out what it is, you want to reach out to me later, this is how you can reach me. I do see some things in there. Maria's saying she'd like to develop a presentation for a middle school class. And that's excellent. And it has to be tweaked for the 2 grades between 6th and 8th grade. This can give you some ideas for how you could do that. It's great for differentiated things too. You can have an article that it writes at, say, an 8th grade level, and then an article that it writes at, say, a 12th grade level. So that way, maybe it's accessible to more students in the class. And if you confirm the information's right, you can let them choose which one they read. You don't even have to tell them the different grade levels. They could just decide. But can you use it based on a textbook or publisher? I think I need a little more information about that question. I'm not sure do you mean for the style that it would create? If that's what you mean, I don't know. I haven't tried it. You could try it for sure. I'm just floored at the quality of the results for the gravity lesson, especially since you were upside down, right, John? Gravity's not working for you today, so. So resources for properly citing. We actually have an APA reference guide. Are you talking about being able to use it with your students? Or are you trying to get ChatGPT to do it correctly? If my students use it. So inside of D2L, we have a little module that you can put in there with the APA that the English department often uses, but we do have an APA reference guide that I've put into my abnormal psych course. So the students do have reference to that. And sometimes a little mini lesson here and there where you talk to them about how does the citation look, and you take about 2 minutes to talk to them about it, can also help your students with that APA. But Rachel, if you reach out to me, I'll give you that link. Otherwise, if you want to find it, CCIT website, if you go to our website and you go down on next to the calendar, you'll see CCIT reference guides, and you'll be able to find all of the reference guides that we have there. And APA is one of them. And you can make that available for your students. Can you tell it to summarize chapters from a specific textbook? That would be tricky. If the textbook was online in a version that it could find, that ChatGPT could find, it could do it for you. Otherwise, thank you, Jennifer. She put in there the link to the reference guide page that will show you all of the reference guides that are available. That specific textbook, if it's available online, it might be able to do that for you. Otherwise, you have to copy and paste things in there. And then that's when you might run into that character limitation that ChatGPT 3 or 3.5 might have versus ChatGPT 4. So there could be limitations there. It kind of all depends on what you have. Yeah, like what Rick said. I mean, you can paste it in. Excellent. And then Jen updated and also provided the link that's directly to the APA reference guide. I love this. Keep the questions coming. And my people who have a lot of experience, if there's things that I need to add to my answer, please chime in. More voices are better. Or if you've used it in a way that I didn't talk about today, but you think could be useful for your colleagues, please go ahead and unmute or type it in there. Let us know. Okay. Wow. This gives you a good taste of AI of ChatGPT and all of the uses for that. As I said in the beginning, there are lots and lots of resources that can be used. Other places like Perplexity or other places where you can use for AI generators. But ChatGPT is definitely the most popular, the most talked about. So that's why there was this focus. Thank you everyone for coming.